So let's have a look at what Sabalenka will have to do over in her group. Of course, being the number 1 in the world, she will have to play against Gauff, who she has a losing record against 5 wins, 6 losses, and she did lose their last match at the French Open earlier in the year.
Hey guys, we're super excited to be here. I'm happy to be back in Riyadh, and hopefully you guys support us, and yeah, see you.
Tension is boiling in women's tennis once again. And this time, it's personal. Aryna Sabalenka, the fiery world number 1, is facing off against Coco Gauff, the calm and composed prodigy who's quickly becoming her worst nightmare. After that unforgettable loss earlier in the season, Sabalenka isn't just fighting for a win, she's fighting for redemption. But as the rematch looms, fans are starting to wonder, has Sabalenka learned from her mistakes? Or is she about to crumble under the same pressure all over again? Because if history repeats itself, this could be the moment that changes everything.
She won the match not because she played incredible, just because I made all of those mistakes from, like, if you look from the outside, kind of like from an easy ball.
Everything changed during their last encounter. The match that shifted the balance of power in women's tennis. Coco Gauff, calm and laser-focused, walked onto that court like she had nothing to lose. Sabalenka, however, carried the weight of expectations as the reigning powerhouse, the one everyone believed would dominate. From the opening serve, the energy was electric. Every rally was a test of composure versus chaos. And as the tension grew, it became clear who was in control. Gauff's confidence never wavered. Even when she trailed, she adjusted her game, reading Sabalenka's every move like an open book.
In the last few weeks, she was the favorite to win, so I think she was the best person that I could have played in the final. Her being number 1 in the world, she was the best person to play, so I think I got the hardest matchup just if you go off stats alone. Obviously, Iga being a champion here, it was going to be a tough match either way. But yeah, I think regardless of
By the final set, the momentum had completely shifted. Sabalenka's powerful ground strokes, once her biggest weapon, started betraying her. Unforced errors piled up, frustration built, and her emotions began to spill over. When that final point landed in Gauff's favor, the crowd erupted, but Sabalenka's expression said it all. Disbelief, anger, and pride colliding at once. It wasn't just a loss, it was a moment of reckoning.
I was pissed. But these reactions are natural. As an athlete, you're naturally competitive and you hate to lose. But the fact that you showed that poor sportsmanship afterwards tells a lot about who you are as a person. In Coco's case, the harsh reality is she's in a lose-lose situation.
Coco Gauff hadn't just won a title. She had dismantled the myth of Sabalenka's dominance. And deep down, Sabalenka knew it. But instead of acknowledging Gauff's brilliance, she told the world a different story. One where the loss was her own fault, not Coco's triumph. That denial would come back to haunt her. After that devastating loss, Sabalenka's emotions boiled over in a way fans had never seen before. Minutes after leaving the court, she faced the media. Her voice calm, but her words sharp. Instead of praising Gauff's performance, Sabalenka brushed it off, claiming she simply made too many mistakes. It was a small sentence, but it spoke volumes. To many, it sounded like denial. To others, it was pride refusing to bow to reality. But what happened next made headlines across the tennis world. Behind the scenes, as cameras caught her walking through the tunnel, Sabalenka's frustration erupted. She smashed her racket against the wall, not once, but over and over, as if trying to silence her own regret. It wasn't just anger, it was humiliation, the kind that lingers long after the match ends. That outburst revealed what Sabalenka had been trying to hide, the growing pressure of living up to her own image. She wasn't just competing with Coco Gauff, she was at war with herself. Every mistake felt heavier, every loss more personal. And while Gauff moved forward with grace and composure, Sabalenka's confidence began to fracture. But here's where things took a surprising turn. Instead of the tennis community condemning her behavior, most stayed silent. Few dared to call out her lack of sportsmanship. And that silence only fueled the fire. It was clear Sabalenka's breaking point had become the moment that defined her reputation. In the days that followed, the tennis world couldn't stop talking about what happened. Clips of Sabalenka's outburst spread across social media like wildfire. The smashed racket, the tense press conference, the icy tone in her interviews. Some fans sympathized, saying it showed her passion and drive. Others called it what it was, a complete lack of sportsmanship. And at the center of it all stood Coco Gauff, calm, composed, and unbothered.
I'm usually always happy on the court. People don't think so because I look so serious, but I am happy inside. Most recently, probably winning French Open, but also when I play with my brother, I'm pretty happy too.
Sports commentators began drawing comparisons to classic rivalries from the past. Sharapova versus Serena, McEnroe versus Borg. But this one felt different. This wasn't just about competition, it was about character. The young prodigy, who handled pressure with grace versus the world number one, who let her emotions get the better of her. The story practically wrote itself. Online forums lit up with debates. Was Sabalenka being unfairly criticized for showing emotion? Or was this proof that she couldn't handle Gauff's rise? Fans dissected every expression, every quote, every small moment between the two. The tension wasn't confined to the court anymore. It had become a full-blown narrative of pride, maturity, and rivalry. And while Gauff stayed focused, Sabalenka's silence spoke louder than any statement. She didn't apologize, she didn't explain, and that only deepened the divide. For many, this wasn't just a match anymore. It was the beginning of something much bigger. But even as the media stirred the drama, those closest to both players were beginning to see what really separated them, and it wasn't talent. While the fans argued online, insiders within the tennis world quietly revealed what was really happening behind the scenes. Sabalenka's own coaching team, usually loyal and protective, started admitting that Coco Gauff's game had evolved far beyond what they expected. Her serve, once a weakness, had transformed into a weapon. Her footwork was sharper, her patience unmatched, and her ability to read opponents was something even veteran players struggled to develop. Sabalenka's coach reportedly mentioned that before the US Open, Coco's team made subtle but brilliant adjustments to her game, changes that completely altered how she handled pressure.
What's the downside in trying to change it? I mean, she was at a point now where, okay, like the chances that you're going to turn this around, you know, doing what you're doing before New York starts, I mean, it's just probably not going to happen. So that's where our conversation was. We're after, you know, the improvement for the rest of the year. And for me, like everything that happened in New York was a win for her, because to be able to go in and win, and especially win tough matches.
Those refinements, combined with her mental toughness, were what allowed her to take down top-tier players like Sabalenka. It wasn't luck, it was preparation. Even analysts like Stephen A. Smith, known for his fiery takes, couldn't help but praise Gauff's composure and character. He pointed out that her success wasn't just about her athleticism. It came from the discipline and grounding she got from her family. She didn't rely on excuses or emotions. She relied on work ethic and focus. Meanwhile, Maria Sharapova, who knows all too well what rivalries can do to a player, called Coco the future of women's tennis. Coming from someone who once lived through a fierce feud with Serena Williams, those words carried weight. It became clear that while Sabalenka's emotions were spiraling, Gauff's rise was built on foundation and control. The contrast couldn't have been more obvious. And as the analysts praised Coco's maturity, one question began echoing through the locker rooms. Could Sabalenka handle another rematch with her mental game in this state? While Sabalenka wrestled with her emotions, Coco Gauff was quietly building something bigger than herself. After her breakout season, she made a bold and unexpected move, parting ways with Roger Federer's management team to launch her own organization, Coco Gauff Enterprises. It wasn't just a business decision, it was a declaration of independence. At just 20 years old, Gauff wasn't waiting for anyone else to control her narrative. She was taking full ownership of her career and future. Her new venture wasn't only about brand deals or image, it had purpose. Gauff wanted to use her platform to create opportunities for young, up-and-coming athletes, giving them the kind of guidance she wished she'd had early on. It was a clear sign of her maturity. While others her age were still trying to find stability, Gauff was already creating a legacy. Off the court, she stayed true to her core, grounded, focused, and remarkably self-aware. She often said that tennis is what makes her happiest, even if her serious game face leads people to believe otherwise. That quiet confidence, that joy for the sport, is what separates her from so many of her rivals. While Sabalenka's emotions often erupt outward, Gauff channels hers inward, turning pressure into fuel. And as her career evolved, so did her influence. Fans didn't just see Coco as a great tennis player anymore. They saw her as the next leader of the sport. Her discipline, emotional control, and drive to empower others became her signature. And that independence, that sense of purpose, made the brewing rematch with Sabalenka even more personal. Because this time, Coco wasn't just the underdog with something to prove. She was a woman in control of her game, her career, and her story. Now, all eyes are locked on the next chapter of this rivalry, the long-awaited rematch between Coco Gauff and Aryna Sabalenka. For Sabalenka, this isn't just another tournament match, it's redemption or ruin. She's been haunted by that last defeat, replaying every mishit and every moment she lost control. The pressure this time is enormous. She knows that another loss to Gauff wouldn't just hurt her ranking. It could redefine her entire reputation as a champion who can't handle composure under fire. Coco, on the other hand, walks into this matchup with a completely different energy. She's not playing to prove herself anymore. She's playing to maintain her dominance. Her preparation has been meticulous, her mindset sharper than ever. Where Sabalenka shows emotion, Coco shows patience. Where Sabalenka forces power, Coco uses precision. It's a battle not just of skill, but of identity. Emotion versus intelligence, chaos versus calm. Every journalist, analyst, and fan can feel the electricity building. Their previous matchups have all carried tension, but this one feels like the true test. Sabalenka has to prove she can control herself long enough to control the court, while Coco simply has to keep being Coco, steady, focused, unshaken. The question hanging in the air is simple. Can Sabalenka rewrite her story, or will she once again fall victim to her own emotions? Because in this rematch, it's not just a game, it's a reckoning. Every era of tennis has its defining rivalry. Serena versus Sharapova, Federer versus Nadal, Djokovic versus Murray. But this one feels different. The clash between Coco Gauff and Aryna Sabalenka isn't just about power and precision. It's about personality. It's youth versus experience, composure versus volatility, legacy versus ambition. And in many ways, it's the rivalry women's tennis has been waiting for. What makes it so magnetic is how opposite they are in every sense. Sabalenka plays with emotion, raw, explosive, unpredictable. When she wins, she screams with fire. When she loses, she wears her pain on her sleeve. Coco, meanwhile, represents control. Her confidence doesn't come from noise, but from calm, that quiet, unshakable self-belief that rattles opponents who thrive on chaos. The media has already begun to frame this as the feud that could define the next decade. And unlike rivalries of the past that relied on hype, this one feels authentic. Every match between them carries real tension, real emotion, and real stakes. You can see it in the way Sabalenka glares across the net, in how Gauff smirks back with unspoken confidence. It's not hatred, it's something deeper, mutual recognition. Each knows the other stands in the way of history. If this continues, it could shape the entire narrative of women's tennis for years to come. Fans aren't just watching matches anymore. They're watching a story unfold in real time, one built on pride, redemption, and the relentless pursuit of greatness. And as their next face-off approaches, one thing is certain. This isn't just about rankings anymore, it's about legacy. So here we are, two athletes standing on opposite sides of the same destiny. Coco Gauff, the composed young star, who's rewriting what it means to be a modern champion, and Aryna Sabalenka, the powerhouse trying to prove that emotion doesn't equal weakness. Their rivalry has become more than competition. It's a reflection of two philosophies colliding, calm versus chaos, humility versus pride. But as the next match approaches, the question is no longer just who will win, it's who will learn. Will Sabalenka finally accept that Gauff's brilliance doesn't diminish her own? Or will she keep letting pride get in the way of progress? And can Coco maintain her unshakable composure when the pressure hits its highest point? One thing's for sure, this rematch will be about more than trophies. It's about legacy, respect, and the fight to stay true to who you are when the whole world is watching. So what do you think? Has Sabalenka finally learned her lesson? Or will Gauff's calm confidence once again expose the cracks in her rival's game? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, because this story is far from over, and the next chapter might just shock everyone.